The whole Tucker thing is starting to confuse me even more, but I think I understand it. Tucker is a dumb person's smart person, right? He is a dumb person's philosopher, a dumb person's intellectual. And I used to think he was always being calculated and dishonest. Now I realize he's often dishonest. You know those clips where it's like, I try not to lie, but it happens a lot. I might have added the a lot part, but I think sometimes he just has a very mushy brain. I don't know. Could it be? And you're going to see here the uniquely Tucker thing, which is lately he's been speaking out against Trump. Great. Awesome. And the Iran war. He speaks out against it. Great. But because his ideology is so squishy and bad, little things squeak out. They sort of squirt out. They squirt out like this. And you go, oh, I see why this is not someone people should trust. And that's the big warning. I'm going to play this clip for you in an interview with Alex Jones. I have seen too many people who only root on the Tuckers, the Candaces, the Megans, and don't root on for the sake of degrading Trump, plus warn of their continued lack of credibility. Just because you get something right, and it's great to see that they're breaking away from the Trump train, doesn't mean they're aligned in general on our values, or if they attained power, would be good at governing. And that's what you can see here. I don't think Tucker has ever articulated what his actual policy solutions are. It is really dangerous when someone is good at demagoguing, good at grievances, at articulating grievances, but completely lacking of solutions. And that's Tucker in a nutshell. And I'm worried because some liberals are getting a little too cozy with some of these former Trump supporters. And I love former Trump supporters in my life, just your average voter, because they really are genuinely going like, I'm looking for something else. I'm like, come on over here. Align with our values. Let's fight together. Woohoo. But if we use our platforms to go, oh yeah, this guy's making sense now, just because he's making some correct point, we're going to regret it later. And this is a very lighthearted example of that, but it reminded me of a much less lighthearted example, which is, once again, he just leaks a little dribble of a hint as to why we should be cautious. Dribbler.
Our society are somehow the real victims. It makes me laugh every single time. It's like when Michelle Obama or Oprah would always tell you, I'm the victim of racism. It's like, well, let's see, you're an idiot and you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So I think you've done pretty well, all considering. But they were wedded to this idea that actually I'm the weakest, most put upon, most vulnerable person in our society. It's like, that's a sign of unhealth. In a healthy society, sure, the powerful people say out loud, I'm a powerful person. And by acknowledging that, I also take on the responsibilities that the powerful have to the people beneath me. That's why feudalism worked and our current system doesn't. Our current system doesn't work because the most powerful people in the world get to pretend that they're not powerful and therefore shirk the duties of the powerful.
Quickest pause to request that you click the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. It's completely free and it's the simplest way to support the work that we do. Right below the video, click that subscribe button, and then also whatever you're thinking or some random statement, drop it in the comments. That helps algorithmically, and click the like button. Back to the video.
You're always going to have powerful people. You're always going to have a hierarchy.
So I'm not even talking about him going, Michelle Obama's an idiot. It's true. I'm not talking about that. That's not the point. The point is, that just happened to be, I clicked a little too early and you saw that part. I didn't mean to subject you to that. The part I'm talking about is him going, that's why feudalism worked and our current system doesn't. Meaning, long ago, you had kings, lords, and peasants. And that was the structure. That was the legally binding structure you were stuck in. And he goes, that's why that worked in our current system of equal rights. Democratic say doesn't work. And the point he's making before that, separate from that, is correct. we sometimes do. It does feel like often we live in a world where powerful people don't acknowledge the extra responsibility that comes along with being powerful. They don't feel an extra duty to people. His point about nothing wrong with having powerful people and less powerful people. That's just going to happen when we try as people to completely eliminate any discrepancy in wealth and power. Often we get chaos. Communism. Mum Donnie. No, I'm kidding. Not Mum Donnie. I'm talking about real communism, not whatever Republicans think. Whatever Republicans think communism is. But so it's totally fine. Yeah, great point. Totally fine to have more powerful, less powerful. When that gap gets too wide, often you got problems. But that the powerful should feel responsibility to the less powerful. They should feel like they have extra obligation. It's not just to serve themselves. And then it's definitely not to wander around acting like you're still the victim even when you have a bunch of power. And he was making that point. He went into like a philosophical thing, but he was originally making that point around is pro-Israel people and then about Michelle Obama and then in general. But then he slips in, and it reminded me, maybe that was a side. And he's saying, no, I mean, it works in the sense of, maybe it'll be like the Antichrist thing, where if you asked him about that, he would say, I never said that. But it reminds me of his trip to Russia, a place with much less democratic rights.
Radicalized.
Much more strict hierarchy, and a much more authoritarian government. And he stood in front of a grocery store, and he said, I won't try to exactly quote him, but of course the message, and you can find the clip, we've watched it many times, the message that he was articulating was, we keep being told by leaders in our country and by people in our country that there's something so special about democratic principles and individual rights and free speech rights, that there's something special about our democratic republic. But people don't care much about that, he said, when their well-being is sunk. And he was saying that in contrast to the governance in Russia, which, by the way, empirically leaves people in Russia much worse off than the average American. But he never told anybody that. He never told anybody that our buying power is still better, even with the massive problems we have, and tried to sell them on a lie about affordability in Russia. And that's why I went, when I was listening to this, I went, oh no, he's doing it again. I don't know if he knows what he believes. And I want to make that clear. I'm not saying that he's sinisterly in the background going, I'm going to pretend like I'm against Trump, and then ultimately I'm going to create a movement that then makes it an authoritarian government, but the way that I want it, and it's going to be like Russia. I'm not saying that he has some big plan. I just think he's bumping into things. I really picture him intellectually just like walking around a very foggy room, and he's speaking confidently, we're going this way, and he bumps into something, and he's like, I think maybe that, bump. And he just flustered and spitting out random thoughts he has. And he has the sympathy for the Russian authoritarianism, obviously. He's expressed that. And he's expressed a similar sympathy with some other countries with similar regimes. But then he also sometimes acts like he is so pro-American ideals. And that's what I want to in this moment where you have some more unity between certain right-wingers and left-wingers against what this current government is doing, and for a more radical approach, radicalized, I don't play it again, but I just said like it, a more radical approach to... Radicalized. That was weird. A more radical approach to politics, to systemic change, that the elites are out of control, true, that the oligarchs are out of control, true, that we need to have a movement across political lines where we stop looking at all of these social divides and link arms around class and fight for a more equitable society. Yes. And you can still have love for having a democratic republic. You can still believe in liberal ideas and ideals. You can still believe that there's something beautiful and special and unique about the American experiment, and that we should use the system that was given to us, that has been fought for and protected and progressed for generations. This is very similar to what Obama was saying during his presidential library opening speech. That a brilliant system was created amid moral atrocities that didn't live up to the purported principles of the people creating a system that at least allowed for mechanisms of change that then generation after generation use to progress, use to get closer and closer to fully embodying those principles, which we still haven't even got close to. And along the way, we've gone taking crazy hard right turns, hard left turns, car wrecks. But that we're striving. And the brilliance of the system is it allows for that through democratic say. That's being diluted a lot right now because of wealthy power, because of elite power, because of oligarchs. That sometimes feels like it's being infringed because of the failings of our system. But that doesn't mean that you throw it all out. Doesn't mean that you destroy it altogether. And while I do not know what Tucker believes
years ago, and I'm not saying I hope that doesn't happen now, obviously, but it's the same dynamic.
And I'm sure not.
It was paused. It had the pause, and it was going. Weird. And so I hope you get my message on this, because the next clip's way more fun and silly. But that Tucker does not have a deep-rooted ideology about equality of opportunity, or about how we bridge divides for the sake of a unified movement to uplift everybody. He still does these segments where he tries to perpetuate, like, there's a cultural genocide against white people in America or something. He still tries to stoke these racial tensions while saying that the elite stoke the racial tensions to divide us. He does the thing that he correctly identifies that the powers that be love that whenever we stoke. That was not a great sentence, but I think you get my point. When we're focused on, you're not a real American. I'm not. It's the immigrants. It's the LGBTQ people. When we're debating that and making no real fundamental economic change, the people who benefit from this current system love it. They love it. And Tucker points that out sometimes in words, but then perpetuates the same distractions and spent a career perpetuating the same distractions. And then there was such a tiny moment, but he preferentially compares feudalism to our current system. It's interesting. And I think we should be proud of saying, wow, we have huge changes we need to make. But we can still believe in our system. All right,
you know this because I've seen you talk. Not a very smart elite.
This X is the worst platform ever to watch videos on. Here, let me go back a little bit, and then we'll watch him further make this point.
Will consume themselves and them in the process. Not a very smart elite.
It's not a smart elite, but you can see the allure, because any globalized system, any transnational system, provides all the benefits and none of the obligations to the people who run it. So in a traditional system, in the world that I grew up in, for example, if you had a housekeeper, you're privileged to have a housekeeper. Most people don't have housekeepers. But if you do have a housekeeper and her kids want to go to college and she can't afford it, you have to pay the tuition. Because there's not just the benefit, there's also the obligation that goes with it. It was called noblesse oblige. And it was a real principle. It wasn't just some dumb WASP thing. It was an ancient concept. It is the most ancient concept. And it is that loyalty goes both ways. Obligation goes both ways. With benefits come obligation. So it's just a very simple thing, but it's only in a globalized economy, which is what we have, that the people who are reaping the largest rewards can pretend that actually I'm not an elite. I'm not an elite. That's why I wear jeans and a turtleneck. That's why I look like Steve Jobs, right? Because I may run everything, but I don't have to admit that.
Yeah, okay. And then some of this is fine when people don't assume the responsibilities that come with the power that they have. That's very bad and irritating and a true phenomenon. But then it's hilarious that he slips in there. The world that I come from, let's just put this in terms you understand. You have a housekeeper. It's great because you have a housekeeper and you're lucky, but then you got to send her kids to college. Because they're also your kids. Because she was also your mistress. Like in my family. No. Most people, because do you send, like, if you have cleaning people who come to your house every so often, maybe once a month or once every 2 weeks or something, and clean your house, is that I would send your kids to college relationship? No. He's talking about 30-year live-in housekeeper among a staff of like 15 people maintaining the grounds. You know, groundskeepers. That's what he's talking about. And he's trying to sound relatable. It's so funny. You know, I mean, back in the day when things were more just, you'd have a housekeeper, but then I would send her to college. Or send her kids to college. Hey, you want to see something crazy? Speaking of Alex Jones, this is his dad. This is his dad. Did that just rock your world? Because it rocked mine. That's crazy how similar they look. You're just seeing Alex in a few years.